Okay, we'll get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Government Operations Joint Evaluation Committee on Judiciary and Government this Thursday, this Tuesday, September the 16th of 2025. Madam Clerk, let's see, I'm going to ask Jaya if she would, Madam Clerk, to please take the roll.
Senator Bowling. Senator Bowling is present. Senator Hatcher.
Present.
Senator Hatcher is present. Senator Kyle.
Present.
Senator Kyle is present. Senator Rose.
Here.
Senator Rose is present. Chairman Jackson.
Here.
Chairman Jackson is present. Senator Sutherland is not here. Chairman, you have 5 members present.
Thank you. And if you'll take the roll in the House.
Representative Clemens. Representative Fritz. Representative Helton Haynes. Representative Mayberry.
Here.
Representative Parkinson. Representative Faison. You have 2 members in the House present.
Thank you. And we have a quorum in the Senate. There's not a quorum in the House, so the House members will be able to ask questions, but will not be able to vote since we don't have a quorum. So, okay, just what we'll do, we'll get started on the first. Actually, the first 3 items are very similar. So we're going to go through each one of those three items at the same time, but we'll take motions separately on each one. So if the Honorable Jim Bryson and Commissioner or Lee or whoever is coming forward, please come forward and turn your mics on, and you may begin.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, it's an honor to be here before you today, and thank you for asking us to come and present. We want to today respectfully request an extension for the Local Education Insurance Committee, the Local Government Insurance Committee, and the State Insurance Committee. These 3 committees are responsible for overseeing public sector benefits for over 349,000 Tennesseans, including teachers, local government employees, state employees, higher education employees, their dependents, and their retirees. I am privileged to be chair statutorily of each of these committees, and I can tell you that the members on these committees work very hard for the benefits of those who are insured, and they do what I think a fantastic job at ensuring that the benefits are strong and affordable. These 3 committees each determine premiums, benefit packages, eligibility provisions, procurement activity, and develop the plan documents, which serve as the official policy documents for the plans. The plans have maintained 10 consecutive years of clean audits. That's 10 consecutive years of clean audits in these plans. This reflects strong financial management and operational integrity. I'm joined today by Director Lori Lee. She is the Executive Director of Benefits Administration. Benefits Administration is a division within the Department of Finance and Administration and is statutorily designated to serve as staff to all 3 of these committees. Lori will now provide a brief overview of the committee structure and responsibility. At the conclusion, we'll be happy to answer whatever questions that you may have. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And Commissioner Lee, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Laurie Lee, Executive Director of Benefits Administration. Following Commissioner's opening remarks, I would like to outline just some of the key points that cross over all 3 committees, and then highlight some information that is specific to each. And I'll try to go through this very quickly. The authority and the principal duties and membership of the committees are outlined in statute, and that was referenced in the materials that you have. All 3 committees have 3 members in common, and that's the Commissioner of Finance and Administration, the Comptroller, and the Treasurer. And then after that, the composition of the committees varies. As Commissioner said, the committees approve the benefit packages, funding methods, administrative procedures, and so on, the other functions that he mentioned. My division within Finance and Administration serves as staff and provides technical and administrative support to the committees. We research and develop the benefit recommendations that the committees ultimately vote on. We write the procurements, we write the contracts, so that's what our office does. We also service our many agencies and members with a service center, a call center. Just a couple of highlights, again, that cross over all three committees. The committees do not receive revenues and do not incur expenditures. None of the committee members receive per diem travel reimbursement in either of the last two fiscal years. The committees operate plans that are self-funded, which means that the plans take on the financial risk. So we're not paying a third party like Blue Cross or Cigna to manage that risk. We manage the risk, and we assume that risk. So we, each of the committees oversee the plans that are self-funded. They have their own funds to pay claims, and the funds sit in accounts that are managed by Treasury. So that's not unlike the general fund. Our funds, however, are not part of the general fund. They sit separately. The committees have met 6 times in fiscal year 24 and 7 times in fiscal 25, and each time they achieved a quorum at these meetings. We abide by the Sunshine Law requirements for public meetings, and we have governing procedures for the committees that include a conflicts of interest policy. We'd like to sort of frame the committees as acting like a board of directors for a large insurance plan, almost like an insurance company. We feel that the committees are very efficient and effective in delivering these benefits because of the structure of the committees. And they provide comprehensive, affordable, and dependable benefits for the members of each respective group. Now, moving to each of the committees, I'll start with the Local Education Committee first. The Local Education Committee has 9 members. I mentioned the 3 that are common to all 3 committees, plus the Local Education Committee has a representative from the Department of Education, representative of the School Board Association, and then 3 teacher representatives, one representing each of the 3 grand divisions. 2 of those positions are vacant right now. Those are appointed by the Speakers of the House and Speaker of the Senate, the Lieutenant Governor. There are about 130,000 local education members, and these are teachers, non-certified staff, their retirees and their dependents, across 131 local education agencies, many of which are very small agencies. These school systems, particularly the smaller ones, without the ability to pool covered lives in a consolidated risk pool, which is essentially what we manage, many of these local education agencies would not be able to afford comprehensive benefits. So now turning to the Local Government Committee, that committee has 5 members, again the 3 I mentioned earlier, plus a representative that is appointed by the Tennessee Municipal League and one that is appointed by the Tennessee County Services Association. There are a little bit over 26,000 members in the local government plan across 367 agencies. Again, many of these are very small. And as with the local education plan, without the ability to pool these covered lives into a consolidated pool, many of these smaller agencies would not be able to afford comprehensive coverage. And then last, turning to the State Committee, there are 11 members on the State Committee, in addition to the 3 that cross over all 3 committees. The chairs of the Senate and House Finance, Ways, and Means Committees sits on the State Committee. There's a representative of the Tennessee State Employees Association, and then there are 3 employee representatives, one from higher education, and then 2 from central state employees. There are about 141,000 state members, and again, this is the executive branch, the legislative branch, the courts, and higher education institutions. For these agencies and higher education institutions, comprehensive benefits is critical to recruiting and retaining staff, and so it's part of the total compensation that allows them to recruit and retain good people. So through the work of the committee, the state and higher education agencies are able to provide comprehensive, affordable, and dependable, sustainable benefits that helps them fulfill their respective missions. So with that, I conclude my prepared remarks, and we respectfully request your approval to continue the work of the committees. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Members, you've heard the explanations. Senator Rose? Senator Hatcher, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that we extend.
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, one thing I failed to mention, if there's any public comment, we do have a sign-up sheet over here to my left, okay. So that, I did want to mention that I failed to mention that a minute ago. Let me just make this explanation that we do now have a quorum in the House, and so.
There you go.
Okay, so if you would withdraw your motion, so we have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think Senator Rose, you were first, and then we'll go to Representative Clemens.
Thank you, and Commissioner and Ms. Lee, thank you both, or Commissioner Lee, excuse me. Thank you both for being here. I appreciate what you do. I think I know the answer to my question, but I need to ask it. You do not deal with any property insurance at all, is that correct?
That's correct. We do
Okay.
not.
So if I wanted to find out about property insurance, who would I need to go to as far as for schools? A number of school buildings, and there's different agencies. Is that each school board? If you don't know, just tell me, look.
You're recognized. Go ahead.
I'm not sure, but I would say either the Department of Education or the comptroller potentially.
Okay, thank you. Representative Clemens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is with regard to the State Insurance Committee. And on the financial information, the questions number 6, I don't have page numbers, but it's question to answer number 6, and then number 12 as well. I noticed here in the second paragraph of your response, in 24 you collected over $968 million in premiums and paid out $917 million in benefits. And then you say in 25 you collected over $1.03 billion in revenues. Is that supposed to say premiums? Because I don't think y'all have revenues.
Yes, sir, that's correct. So that is in premiums, yes.
Okay. And so with that increase in premiums, that increase in premiums a result of the 5.5% increase in aggregate premiums for CY 2025, or is there some other explanation for that increase in that amount of premiums?
Right. So that would be resulting from the overall premium increase. To a minor degree, that would represent just the number of lives that are covered, which fluctuates. So, to the extent that you have more or fewer lives, that would also affect that number.
Thank you. And so that was my question. I didn't know if there had been an increase in the amount of people covered or if that was solely resulting from that aggregate increase. So.
Right. I don't have that exact number, but we can get that to you in terms of the number of lives covered from year over year.
No, that's fine. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions from any of the members? Senator Hatcher, you're recognized.
I'm going to make a motion, yeah.
Oh, wait, just a minute. We need to ask for is there any public comment? Seeing none. Okay. All right. Okay. What we're going to do, since all three of them are very similar, we're going to take a motion and separately for each one of all three. I do have one quick question, though, before we do a motion, if that's okay. I noticed that there's some, I think there's, on the board, there's a vacancy from West Tennessee and also from Middle Tennessee. And I think maybe we need to probably help or something, make suggestions, or what would you suggest to get the board up to the proper number?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really appreciate the question. And so those are, one is appointed by the Speaker of the House and one by Lieutenant Governor. So they have to be teachers, certified teachers, but
Yes.
outside of that, and they have to represent their specific division, the Central Division and West. I would encourage you to submit recommendations to the speakers. Yeah.
I wanted to ask that question just because I know that sometimes it's difficult for you to come up with someone and they do need to be required to be a teacher, and one is from West Tennessee and one is from Middle Tennessee. So for the members, if we have suggestions of somebody that might be good to serve on these boards, then they would certainly appreciate the name of a person. So thank you. I wanted to mention that. So we have no public comment. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a vote individually on each one of these. And the first one is going to be the Local Education Insurance Committee. So have a motion. Now we can have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion on the Local Education Insurance Committee that we extend that for 6 years.
Thank you. And I have a motion and a second. Let's see. We'll go take a vote in the House. We'll roll call vote in the House.
No, we do a voice vote in the House.
Okay, voice vote in the House. I'm sorry. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, take a roll call in the Senate.
Senator Bowling? Aye. I need something to turn on. Senator Bowling votes aye. Senator Hatcher? Aye. Senator Hatcher votes aye. Senator Jackson? Aye. Senator Jackson votes aye. Senator Kyle? Aye. Senator Kyle votes aye. Senator Rose? Aye. Senator Rose votes aye. Chairman Sutherland? Chairman, you have 5 ayes.
Thank you. This passes through to the full committee with a 6-year extension. Okay, next we will take a vote on Local Government Insurance Committee. I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion on the Local Government Insurance Committee that we extend it for 6 years also.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, we're getting ahead. I need to ask for public comment, any public comment on this item. Seeing none. Now, your motion
is to extend 6 years for Local Government Insurance Committee.
Thank you. And have a second?
Second.
I have a second on this. Okay. Madam Clerk, if you'll take a vote in the House. A voice vote in the House. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. In the Senate, if you'll take a roll call vote in the Senate. Voice vote in the Senate.
Senator Bowling? Senator Bowling votes aye. Senator Hatcher? Aye. Senator Hatcher votes aye. Senator Jackson?
Aye.
Senator Jackson votes aye. Senator Kyle? Aye. Senator Kyle votes aye. Senator Rose? Aye. Senator Rose votes aye. Chairman Sutherland? Chairman, you have 5 ayes.
Thank you. And this will move for 6 years to full committee, state insurance. Okay, the third item, State Insurance Committee. We have need a motion. I'm sorry, we need public comment. See no public comment. Next, a motion. Senator Hatcher, you're recognized.
I'd like to make a motion on the State Insurance Committee for it to be extended for 6 years.
Thank you. And have a second? You have a second, Senator Bowling. Okay, let's have a roll call vote in the Senate.
Senator Bowling? Senator Bowling votes aye. Senator Hatcher? Aye. Senator Hatcher votes aye. Senator Jackson?
Aye.
Senator Jackson votes aye. Senator Kyle? Aye. Senator Kyle votes aye. Senator Rose? Aye. Senator Rose votes aye. Chairman Sutherland? Chairman, you have 5 ayes.
Thank you. And in the House, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Passes through to full committee. Thank you both for this. Okay, next item. We're on item number 4.
In the inmate disciplinary oversight board.
Okay. The Inmate Disciplinary Oversight Board. If you'll come forward. And take a seat and just identify yourself. And you may, what we'd like to do is be sure you recognize yourself, who you're with, and what your position is, and you may begin.
Thank you, Chairman and members. My name is Michael Stahl. I'm the Executive Director of the Inmate Disciplinary Oversight Board. To my right is the Chairman, Mr. Jerry Vassbinder, and to his right is Board Member Dale Carr. We appreciate your time very much today. And as explained more fully in the packet before you, the Inmate Disciplinary Oversight Board is responsible for the review of all inmate sentence credits that have been granted, denied, or removed from an inmate following the imposition of a Class A disciplinary offense across all of the state's 14 correctional facilities. In support of this mission, the board to date has directed the Department of Correction to remove more than 350,000 sentence credit days from offenders, beyond what would have been removed if the board were not conducting its review process. That marks a more than 450% increase above TDOC original credit removal decisions. Additionally, the board has restored more than 17,000 credit days to inmates, and in total, the board has reviewed more than 20,000 disciplinary actions since its inception last year. In addition to these responsibilities, the board also works closely with the Department of Correction on evolving its policies to enhance correctional outcomes and to provide recommendations that improve safety for inmates, staff, and Tennessee communities. The board prides itself on developing great working relationships with all of its sister agencies across the state, including the Department of Corrections, and through that relationship has worked closely with TDOC on improving several department policies, including a newly developed sanctions matrix that has substantially increased the Class A disciplinary penalization process. Additionally, the board provides assistance to local district attorneys' offices regarding inmate prosecutions and assists the Board of Parole by providing a prolific offender list that can be used in the parole determination process. We also conduct yearly site visits to correctional institutions and provide legislative assistance regarding inmate disciplinary history while answering questions and providing analysis. The board is proud to be part of the governor's initiative prioritizing secure and resilient communities, and we work every day to establish and enforce protocols and policies that make Tennesseans safer. We're here today asking this committee to extend our important work for an additional sunset period. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members, you have heard the explanation. Have some questions for many of the members. I think Representative Clemens, you were first. You may.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So each board member gets paid $120,000 annually. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When this board, you know, we talk a lot about up here bureaucracy and trying to limit bureaucracy, and it appears this board does what other individuals already do. It's consuming a large chunk of taxpayer resources. And so what qualifications do these board members have? Do any of these board members have any experience in the penal system, running prisons, or anything like that? I know my colleague who serves on the board has some experience overseeing these types of things, but other than my colleague who's with you today, is there anybody on this board who has any experience in this profession?
Yeah, it's a great question, Representative, and I actually like to defer to our chairman, who I think could provide you with some details about his experience in this profession.
You're recognized. Just identify yourself, and you may begin.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jerry Vassbinder. I'm the board chairman. I'm retired Obion County Sheriff. I was sheriff of Obion County for 16 years, worked for the Sheriff's Department for 34 years. As a sheriff, I managed the correctional facility. I also was a contractual provider to the U.S. Marshal Service, holding pretrial detainees for the Marshal Service. So yes, sir, I've got a background in corrections.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your service to the state of Tennessee and Obion County. What other of your colleagues on that board have similar experience?
We've got Mike Dunn, who was investigator for the Tennessee Department of Corrections. We have Mr. Mike Sharon, who was Deputy Chief of Investigations for the Memphis Police Department. And Dr. Mary Karpos was a analyst with the Tennessee Department of Corrections that have all got law enforcement. And, Member Carr, besides being a former House member, has been a deputy sheriff in Sevier County for years.
And do we have any information on you said there was a 450% increase in sentences revoked or good credit revoke. Do we know, or do you have any information as to in which facilities those were? Is there any consistent pattern here where a certain warden is given good time or bad time as opposed to another, and whether it's in the Tennessee-run prisons versus the private prisons?
Yes, sir. So,
Go ahead.
Mike Stahl, the executive director. We collect all those statistics on a month-to-month basis. We actually have a form that we use that tracks the offense code inside of each individual facility to identify those trends. And we have monthly meetings with TDOC to talk with them about the things we're seeing inside the prisons. So more specifically to your question, some of the things that we do see at individual facilities, some facilities have higher rates of offense problems with gangs. Other facilities have higher rates of offense problems with drugs. So as we collect all that information, we do share it with the Department of Corrections so that they can understand what is happening at the individual facilities, inform wardens. We also, on our site visits, we also speak directly with the wardens about the trends that we're seeing and the problems that we think that they're facing so that we can better understand ways to improve their processes. And then additionally, we also get a quarterly list from the Department of Corrections with regard to outside prosecutions. So those outside prosecutions to the local DAs, the majority of those involve aggravated assault, sexual battery, homicides, and indecent exposure. So we track those as well to understand which facilities are having the most problems in those areas. So the short answer to your question is yes, and we'd be happy to provide all of that information. We collect all of it, but we don't submit it unless it's requested because it's voluminous. So each month, all of the board members will review an approximately 1,500 individual disciplinaries. There are 29 different Class A offense codes, so those 1,500 disciplinaries will come from those 29 different offense codes, and they track comments, they track prior Class A offenses for the individual inmates. So there's a lot of information there. So we're happy to provide any information that anyone would like, but yes, we have the answers to those questions if you'd like them, sir.
So you said each member is presented with 1,500 different?
No, so there's 1,500 total for approximately. So some months are less, or about 1,400 Class A disciplinaries across the state. Some months are 1,600 Class A disciplinaries across the state. The 9 board members are in charge of reviewing every single one of those. So individually, each board member will review somewhere between 200 to 250 disciplinaries over the course of the month.
And so they're dividing those up, and then I guess y'all are voting on as a board, or does each member get sole discretion as to whether or not to make that decision with regard to those 200 or 300?
So it's a two-step process. So the initial review is done by the individual board member. Each of those 1,500 or so disciplinaries are randomly distributed to the individual board members. Those individual board members are assigned the initial review of that disciplinary. If they determine that disciplinary if action needs to be taken on that disciplinary, either increase the sentence credit withdrawn that's been adjudicated or restore certain credits, they bring those to our monthly meetings. And then as the board in its entirety reviews each of those cases, and it votes in its entirety as to what the re-adjudication is going to be.
And so I assume they defer to each individual member in most cases before they make a decision if they're reviewing. I'm trying to think, we're paying these folks $120,000 a year. This workload seems to be pretty voluminous. And I'm just wondering how much attention they can give to each individual matter, because these are regardless of what you think, these are people's lives, and their ability to get out back into society is directly impacted by this, or the need to stay. And you referred to some facilities have a drug problem, some have a gang problem. Well, some have both. Charles Turner's got a serious issue with both. And so my concern is, and I'll just ask you, does the fact that our contracts or county contracts, in most cases, contain a clause in there of a mandatory minimum amount of inmates per day, does that ever enter the equation when you're considering good time credits or bad time credits?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my first question is, did I hear you call Mike Sheeran Dr. Mike Sheeran?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. I just want to be just wanted to be clear on it. Mike Sheeran is a friend of mine. We worked many years together in my district. He worked at our precinct, served very well. I truly appreciate it. I do have a question though. When the good behavior credits are taken back or removed,
My first time to use this system, so can you turn yourself back on? There you go.
All right.
I apologize.
Mr. Chair, I'm used to a gavel preceding my mic being turned off, so I didn't hear the gavel, and I was wondering what was going on. Okay, when these good behavior credits when they're taken back, or removed, is this based on a conviction or is it based on an investigation? How does that determine whether or not you're going to remove some of the good behavior credits?
So the way our process works is it goes through TDOC's initial disciplinary process. So when the offense happens, there is a TDOC process that requires the disciplinary board sergeant at the individual facility to approach the inmate and ask the inmate if they would rather have a hearing or if they recognize that the offense, that they're guilty of it, and then they write it up as a guilty offense. And then there's an appeal process there that goes to the warden. Once it's approved through the facility, it goes up to central headquarters. Once it's approved through central headquarters, our review process begins. So it's at that point that the investigation and the if you want to call it a conviction, has already occurred. And then we go through, based on the paperwork and the information that's available to us in the eTOMA system, and we do a secondary review of why that happened and what the effect is and what makes the most sense. Then when we have questions that we don't feel like were answered within what's available to us, we have forms that we send over to TDOC. We speak directly with either the disciplinary board sergeant or the institutional investigators or the warden themselves on why those decisions were made, what we're seeing, and then once we get all the feedback that we need, we make a final decision. And then even after we make a final decision, the inmate, we have our own appeal process. So the inmate is then welcome, and we send them all the forms and information they need to appeal through our process as well. And there have been instances where we've changed our adjudication and re-granted time that's been withdrawn based on an appeal that was sent to us.
And thank you for that. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask that. So how often, when you get the information in from the facility, do you review that information and you've overturned something that they've said without an appeals process happening directly to you? How often does that happen?
So it's a shifting, the goalposts are sort of shifting. One thing that I'll mention is we worked diligently with TDOC for the past year on changing some of their policies. So prior to February of this year, the sanctions matrix that was utilized in a lot of these cases was much more lenient than the one that we're instituting now. So in February of this year, the cases that we would re-adjudicate, that we changed, were significant. It would probably approach 50%, 60% of the cases that we saw. But over time, because of the education that we're doing with the individual facilities, because of the work that's being done on TDOC's end, we've managed to shrink the numbers that we're changing to closer to 30% of the monthly disciplinaries that we're seeing are required to be changed. Now, in terms of how many get appealed back to us, that's a much smaller percentage. I'd probably put that around 5%.
And last thing, so in those shifts, where prior to some of the policies being changed, and you said it was about 50%. You guys would change 50% of the outcomes. Which way were you changing in that 50%? 50% to return credits or 50% to remove credits?
The vast majority of our re-adjudications we're finding require an additional withdrawal. A smaller percentage require restoration of credits.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Next, to have Representative Fritz. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being with us today. Hello, sir. How are you? It's good to see you. So ask a couple questions as if I have the chairman's permission to ask about 3 questions.
You're recognized. Go
Thank
ahead.
you so much. And I want to ask those from the position of someone who sat on those disciplinary boards a long, long time ago, and someone who did those investigations. And so the first is, this is my understanding, and I'll just be asking if this is correct, that the board was created when Liza Fletcher was assaulted and murdered in Memphis by an inmate who was released early. And there was an end goal of public safety for this board. Does that fit with what the mission of the board is today?
I agree primarily with that. I think the impetus for its final creation was certainly that event, but I also think that the idea of the board had been in effect for several years prior to that.
Was that gentleman indeed released 4 years early due to sentencing credits, do you recall?
He was released early. I can't say for sure if it was exactly 4 years early, but there were several years worth of sentencing credits that he had accrued that under TDOC policy and under our review process he would not have accrued.
Thank you, sir. Does, in your understanding, the code allow for you to award, withdraw, and deny credits?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. So I've been informed, and I've talked to a couple wardens and former wardens, and they have a little bit of concern, and this is not really your question to have to respond to, but a centralization of all decision-making in the Department of Corrections. So my question for you is this. Does a centralization of decision-making regarding disciplinary boards and the time that is taken or awarded, does that help or hurt the safety of the correctional employees and the public?
There's pros and cons to the idea of centralization. The pro of centralization is it would certainly perhaps be more efficient in terms of a timeliness and responsiveness system. The problem with the centralization is that it provides for less consistency across the board than we see with an outside entity like ourselves that can come in and take a higher end view to what's happening across facilities. So one of the primary missions that we have and that we've accepted is to create a state where no matter where you're located at a facility, you can expect a penalization that is somewhat consistent with other facilities. Having everything go through one person or one entity would be overwhelming. And what we've seen trying to do that is they focus more on efficiency than outcomes. And so I could certainly appreciate the warden's perspective on wanting more centralization, but I think we have to be very cautious of providing such centralization in such a way that we lose greater context and aspects to what needs to happen across the board. And then I would also say that we are working with TDOC on giving them mechanisms to improve the efficiency of their process. So I would point the wardens less toward the idea of centralization than I would toward modernization. So, for example, right now at a lot of facilities, there's still physical paperwork that gets filled out and then sent by postal mail to Nashville to be processed and then back to the facilities to be processed. We're working and doing our best with TDOC to have them modernize that process, which would increase efficiency without reducing some of the outcomes that I think centralization would create. So I think there's a way to address those concerns without losing some of the benefits that we get from having outside entities such as ourselves review processes.
So just two more quick questions, and if I miscommunicated that, the wardens I talked to were not in favor of the centralization. They felt that it took some of their ability to deal with someone who had been in their inmate population for some time away from them and resulted in perhaps even a less safe environment for both the correctional employees and the public at large. So if you look at, I'm told, if you look at some of the public meetings, you'll hear board members stating that they don't want to operate outside TDOC's matrix. Even in dealing with inmates who have taken staff members hostage, who have attacked or stabbed correctional officers or correctional employees, and even homicides. How would you respond to that?
I would say that it's a great benefit that we have the different voices on the board who bring different perspectives and context to all the issues that we face. And that's why, to Representative Clemens' question, we do, before we make any final decisions of the board does come together to have those conversations. So again, there's benefits to the way we approach our review process, including TDOC's policies. And there's benefits to working outside of those accepted policies. And different board members have different points of emphasis on the benefits and detriments to both of those approaches. So we do have some board members that more fervently advocate for a completely separate process that eliminates any influence from prior TDOC policies. We have other board members, however, who believe that our ability to function efficiently and well is assisted by coordinating with TDOC on what they're doing to further effectuate what they're trying to accomplish with their policies, so that if we get the two policies to mirror each other and work together, we get a more efficient and better outcome. So we do have those very lively and serious debates, and it's a wonderful thing that we have so many passionate board members on our board who can bring the wisdom and context of their experience to that conversation. So you might hear that from certain voices on the board, but I think if you watch the entirety of the video, you'll also hear from other board members on why they think very emphatically otherwise, and I think it leads to the best possible outcomes.
Last question, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your patience and your time, sir, for these questions. So, with the recent release of someone who committed heinous crimes afterward, and with the cost of this mechanism to taxpayers, one of the recommendations we're looking at is offered that we have a separate entity in some of the materials that we've looked through for this, and so. I understand that having a corporal then or a sergeant now as the board chair and then pulling other folks into those disciplinary boards creates an issue. But with that concern and the request for funding and then what this board costs, how would you justify to the taxpayer, based on some of these examples, why we should continue this?
Well, I would say that first and foremost, the incident that you brought up most recently, that was a situation where his initial release came very early on in the board's creation. So it highlights and emphasizes the need for what we're trying to do. And so, I would argue to the taxpayers that that's exactly what we're trying to prevent. And the more than 350,000 sentence credit days that would not otherwise have been taken are accomplishing exactly that. If you look at that particular inmate's disciplinary history and you look at the review process that we've implemented, you would see that he would not have been released based on what we're doing now. So again, it further underscores how we're recognizing what problems exist and how we're making sure that that doesn't happen again. I think the funding is a scintilla of the state budget. I think it's a critical part of creating safer communities. I personally wouldn't put a price tag on my family's safety and my community safety, and I think that's what we wake up every day and we do. And then to the last part about increasing the budget to perhaps create a better process, I believe strongly in the sentence credit system we have. Not every state has a sentence credit system. 80% or so of the inmates utilize the behavioral sentence and program sentence credit system to their benefit. They recognize that there are benefits to behaving properly inside of a correctional institute, and the idea is that that will extend once they're released, so that they can behave correctly in their communities, which is the point. So believing in the sentence credit system requires that you get it right, and so for a long time, there have been problems with the system that we're here to fix so that we don't have to scrap the entirety of it. If we were not to get the funding that we need, if the board were not to continue, all of the problems that have been in place for decades now would most likely reoccur. And that's exactly what we're trying to prevent. So, it's not perfect. if you're going to have a system where inmates are potentially allowed to leave earlier than the maximum of their sentence, there's always the possibility that happens. But we believe strongly that the effect we're having on the overall inmate community is of an extreme benefit, especially considering the quite frankly, small budget that we have.
Thank you, Representative Fritz. Next, we have Senator Rose, then Senator Bowling, then Representative Clemens. So, Senator Rose, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you will, I've got several questions. May I just continue with my question?
Yes, you may. And
Thank you.
And y'all respond as well, so you don't have to be recognized. So you're recognized already.
Okay, thank you, first of all, for being here. I do appreciate it. Representative Carr, it's good to see you. I can just barely see you, but I can see you down there. So that you might want to stand up every once in a while. But it's really, let me just say, I'm a firm believer in the purpose of the Inmate Disciplinary Oversight Board and your mission and your purpose, if it's working correctly. I've got a number of questions. Some of them you've already answered, and I'll do my best as I go down my list. If I realize it's already been answered, but if I ask something you've already answered, I'll apologize to my colleagues and to the audience. How often are you supposed to meet statutorily?
At least once a month.
Okay, and how many times have you met since you've been organized?
We have had a public meeting every month since we've been organized.
Which would be since when again?
January of 2024 was the first, was when the board began its work.
Okay, thank you. Early on, it was reported to me that you were not getting complete cooperation from TDOC. They would not let you in to interview or talk with an inmate. Has that been resolved, or is that still and I'm talking about every facility, has that been resolved? Are you getting access to the people you need to talk to?
We have received a great deal of cooperation from the department as a whole and from the commissioner, especially most recently. We think that we've established a line of communication that allows us to satisfy all of our outstanding requests.
Okay, so when you do one of these yearly site visits, and you said you do at least yearly site visits, that's for both core civic run and TDOC run facilities, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you have to give them heads up that you're coming, or can you come in unannounced?
We can go in unannounced. Typically, we do let them know that we're coming for logistical reasons. So if we're going to be physically present on site, there are instances where, so for instance, we wanted to visit some East facilities most recently, but all the wardens are actually traveling to Nashville for their wardens conference. So we do try and let TDOC know when we're going to be there physically, just so that we can actually talk to the people we need to talk to. Most recently, there was an incident at Riverbend when we wanted to visit, but they were doing the execution. So as a courtesy, we'll reach out to them to let them know, but we have not, we have been told there's no restrictions on speaking or visiting whenever we like.
Okay, I've got a few more. You talked about the policies you'd established, and so they are independent. The policies you've established are independent of TDOC, and are those some you've established initially, or they've been evolving as you've met and realized things you need to do? Where are you at right now on your policies related to how you operate and how you function? Are they independent totally of TDOC?
They are totally independent of TDOC, and they are evolving. But we try and incorporate the systems that TDOC operates under so that we understand when things happen and why they happen, and then we evolve our policies so that it all makes the most sense.
Okay. I think I've got two more questions. One, is there anything legislatively that we need to do as a General Assembly to make you function more efficiently?
So if you, in the packet, that is
and
one
I'm sorry
of the questions.
I missed that, so my apology.
But there are some suggestions for
Okay.
legislative asks that we would that we described in the packet, and I could walk through them all, but what we have in our packet is what we would request from the Assembly.
Very good. I asked that a lot, mainly for the the public that's listening right now, and if they want to know, we can get that to them. You can, or we can, either one. Lastly, and I hesitate to bring this up, but then again, I really don't. I just, because I think Representative Fritz alluded to this inmate, but I'm going to be a little more specific with who, what. But it's my understanding that Austin Drummond, who had a pending murder charge while he was in prison. I don't know if this is fact, but that's what I understand. But Austin Drummond had a pending murder charge while he was in prison, was let out, and subsequently murdered 4 people in Lake County. Did you have any involvement at all in looking at this prisoner?
That he was still incarcerated in the early parts of 2024 when we were just forming. The incident that you're referencing, where he assaulted another inmate, which eventually led to a murder charge, that happened in November of 23. So we had not been formed when that happened.
Thank you for clarifying that. And certainly, we look at what your function is. That is part of your function. And I know in a few moments there'll be a motion, and I'm going to support continuing the board. But I do expect, as a citizen of the state of Tennessee, that you do the job that you've been asked to do. You're being paid for it. I'm not saying you're being overpaid, but certainly it's folks that need to get out sooner. I'm all for it. But if there are those that don't need to get out and they're in there, make sure they don't get out. So I do appreciate the function of the board. Appreciate you being here. And Mr. Chairman, that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Rose. And Senator Bowling, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all very much, excuse me, for being here and for what you're doing. I'm going to anticipate there's a positive outcome from this. My line of questioning is a little more specific regarding the inmate population. Prior to about 1995 in Tennessee, if you were convicted of murder, you could get death, you could get life, which was 61 years, or life with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Well, in the mid-1990s, along came midnight basketball. Clinton, Gore, Biden, I think they had this thing where they were giving prisoners or prisons, all the states, money if they would change the first possibility of parole to be 51 years. So rather than life with the possibility of parole being considered at 25 years, if there had been good behavior and if no one who had been a victim, a relative or whatever that was remaining, had any objection, that person could be considered for parole. Well, when we changed it and adopted the midnight basketball, that took away that incentive for good behavior for people that a judge and jury had determined, yeah, they murdered, but there were extenuating circumstances. Whatever the reasoning, the judge and the jury determined life with the possibility of parole, which would be 25 years. So once that was essentially removed in the mid-90s, you've been there such a short time, maybe I'm going to ask you if you will look at that segment of the population who had been sentenced to life with the possibility of parole, and now that means 51 years instead of 25. And it was not an automatic parole. The parole board had to agree. The behavior had to have been there. The family of the victim had to be in agreement. So it was not like they automatically got it. It was something they had to earn. But it was a strong motivation. So if there's any way you can look at some of the population now and see the people who have been sentenced since 95 of life with the possibility of parole, and see if there is any increase. But you don't have any data to go back to, I don't guess. I guess you could go back and see how many actually went through the process and were able to be paroled after 25 years.
We'd have to gather that data, yes, ma'am.
Would they, I'm going to ask a real crazy question. Do you think there's anything of that in a data format that could be retrieved without you having to go through books and books and books?
So there may be. Likely what would happen is I would talk with the programmers of the eTOMA system and see what feedback I can get on availability for that type of information, and then also talk with the executive director over at the Board of Parole and see what information they keep on file and what kind of access they have, compile those two sources of data, and then see if we can get that answer for you.
Because prior, when it was the possibility of parole was a legitimate thing, 25 years, if they have that record to go back and see how many became eligible, I think that would be some important data, because now Tennessee is the only state that has kept that extended time. All the other states have gone back to where if you had the possibility of parole, some states, that's 15 years. And that's all determined by judge and jury, though, in the circumstances of that trial. And then other states, 20 years. Tennessee was a high mark at 25 years. But we still have the 51 years. And I've carried legislation, full disclosure, to try to get us to go back to what we had prior to the money that was given by the federal government to the state prisons in order to facilitate that. Well, the money has long since gone. And so now you're ending up perhaps with a lack of incentive for young people, and they might be some of your biggest problems, or those that were in a very compromised situation when it happened, and the judge and jury think they should have the possibility of parole, but in fact they don't, because they're going to be geriatric by the time you get to 51 years. And I think the average age in prison is 72. And so anyway, that to me is something that we could fix if we can look at the data and see the negative impact that's had. Maybe a lot of those prisoners are your big troublemakers now, because it was an awkward, weird, bizarre thing. But in looking at that, I would like to see if you could find that out, and just compared to other states, because other states have gone back to their 15 or 20 years, but see what could happen in Tennessee if we were to restore what the sentencing structure had been prior to 1995 in the midnight basketball. But my other question is public-private. What is the difference in the amount of violence or behavior that you see in between the public state-run prisons and the private prisons? Is there any equity in that, or does it seem to be pronounced more severe, more problems?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and I'd like to defer to our chairman who looks at those individual cases across the prisons. I think he can answer that best.
Yes, ma'am. Jerry Vassbinder again. We see, especially since the new matrix that started up the first of the year, actually February, the 14 prisons, which there's 4 of them that are private prisons, core civic, as everyone knows.
If you don't mind, would you move a little closer to your mic so we can all hear you? Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. There's 4 private prisons, core civic prisons, and as everyone has seen, that Trisdale has been the one that's had the most problems. By the reviewing of our monthly cases, the core civic prisons are starting to follow the TDOC compliance with the rules and regulations. Actually, TDOC has a compliance officer that's over each one of the private prisons, and they've started up now where if the core civic prisons are not complying with the TDOC policies, especially with this new matrix where the possibility of 0 credits being taken away is gone, then they're getting fined for that. And I just actually last night finished up my August reviews, and pretty much all 14 prisons are running pretty standard now. Trisdale is actually now the month that they had the riot at Trisdale, that was our biggest month. We had about 1,800 cases. One of the cases I reviewed was the riot. There were 28 people just in one case that I had to review on that. But we're seeing a big change where I guess the management at the private prisons is being changed, but they're really running a lot equal now.
What I had heard from families, nobody wants their loved one in prison, but nobody wanted their loved one at Trousdale. And there were documented murders, gang activity, gang violence, drugs, just a terrible, terrible situation, and evidence of the different gangs within the prison. And if someone went there hoping to do their time, they were sucked into that culture where they had to join, they had to give money, they had to do this. And that, you think, is being ameliorated in some way, or now that Trousdale is realizing there's going to be a closer scrutiny on what you all are doing?
By the statistics that we're looking at just over the few months, and this is like when everything changed, we were having to take a lot more credits away, where the facilities, they were hit with this new matrix, and they were used to a lot of them. The old matrix, if a first offense, you had the choice of 0 months taken away or 9 months. A second offense, 0 to 12. Third offense, 0 to 15. Well, the easy path was taking the 0. Mm-hmm. There's no zeros anymore. It's mandatory. If it's your first offense, you're going to mandatorily lose 1 to 2 months of credit. If you've got 3 priors, you're going to lose 9 to 12 months. And if you've done something to assault a correctional officer, or even assault an inmate where you have bodily injury, it can be taken up to 24 months or even higher. And there's also sentence extensions that the wardens and the commissioners can give to these people, where they can extend a sentence. For instance, if a person's serving a 20-year sentence, say for aggravated assault, and they've assaulted another person in the Department of Corrections or Court Civic, wherever, the warden can do a 5-year extension, so they can end up actually doing 25 years now.
So you're not only having the reward, you're having the punishment.
Yes.
So it can be either or, and you get to choose that path, but there won't be any tolerance for the bad behavior, if you will. They won't be able to do that as they had been doing with impunity, evidently.
That is correct. The tolerance is out. They understand. All of the inmates have received the new policy that it's mandatory, and just from February till now, and we're in a short span of time that we've been under this new, but I can see where you've got people that used to be written up every month. Mm-hmm. And now
and slap them on the wrist while you did it.
They were getting a slap on the wrist, and we review, we look at the names, and now I'm seeing that person's finally thinking, oh gosh, I'm losing real time now. I'm going in the hole. Mm-hmm. So they're having to do extra time. So I think we're going to see a difference in the mindset of the inmates, and the key thing that we want, and it's the little carrot of having the ability to have the credits, behavioral and program, is it gives the good inmates an incentive to do good, because we're only dealing with about 20% of the 23,000 approximate mm-hmm. inmates that are in the Department of Corrections. The rest of them do their job and want to learn, get rehabilitated, but we see the same persons over and over, and I'm seeing that drop now because they're thinking, gosh, I'm going to stay here forever now.
And this will be the last just comment on that. To that point, though, going back to knowing that they could be possibly paroled after 25 years, if that's what the judge and jury had determined by the particulars of that case, that is a huge motivation to stay good. Yes. If that's taken away and 51 years becomes the new 25, then it's just common sense to think the person is not motivated as much because they figure I'm going to be here the rest of my life anyway. But that motivation of, yeah, I can get out and still have some life on the other side, to learn the trades, to do the things that they can do to help get to that 25 years. But if y'all do check into that, I appreciate it, and see if there's any correlation whatsoever in maybe before prisoners with that sentence before about 1995 and now with behavior or lack thereof. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Bowling. Representative Clemens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be really quick here. You said that you had revoked 350,000 credits that had been previously approved. Is that correct?
No. In addition to what TDOC would have taken away from those inmates, we took away 350,000 days on top of that.
On top of that. So 350,000, that's $38.5 million that the Tennessee taxpayers have to pay for. Now, I agree with my colleague, Senator Rose up here, when he said, you know, if people deserve to get bad time, we don't want them getting out. And if they deserve to get out, they should get out to reenter society. And hopefully they've been rehabilitated. And as we all know, that rehabilitation part of the penal system gets cut when profits enter the equation. And that's an inherent problem with core civic. And I think we all, or many of us up here on both sides of the aisle, agree that is a real problem. So my concern is, what's the fiscal check? I mean, we have a fiscal duty up here. We have to pass a balanced budget. And if we've got an independent agency, 9 members, getting paid $120,000 a year, plus staff, just those salaries alone for the board members is $1.08 million charged to Tennessee taxpayers, plus the staff, making arbitrary, but, you know, hopefully well-informed, hopefully doing their due diligence decisions, ringing the state up for $38.5 million more. What's the fiscal check there? Where's the accountability metric? So if we extend y'all's, 4 or 6 years or whatever the motion is going to be, what is the fiscal check for us? How do we know you're not going to exceed your budget?
Well, I would push back on 2 points. The first is the generalization that anything we do is arbitrary. All of our policies and all of our processes are available for review with utmost transparency. So all of our guidelines are available for review. All of our meetings and voting are public, so everybody can see exactly how we do what we do. I don't think anything we do is arbitrary.
But just because the public can view it doesn't mean the decisions being made aren't arbitrary. Now, and I said I hope they're well informed, and you went through the matrix and you went through all the stuff, but that's voluminous. That's a lot of work for individuals. I mean, I served on the Civil Service Commission once upon a time. We didn't get paid, but we had about that much work, it seemed like, and it wasn't full time. And so I know what that work looks like. So I'm concerned, my inherent concern here is, do any of your board members making these reviews have any interaction with the inmate or the individual serving that time who's up for the discussion? Is there ever any personal interaction, question and answer with the inmates?
There can be. There isn't often, because a lot of the information that we need is already available to us. So when the inmate has their hearing, all of that is summarized by the hearing officers and the hearing committee that conducts that. So if any of the board members feel like they require additional information, whether it be from an inmate or from the disciplinary board sergeant or from the officer who observed the offense, we will ask questions and try to further extrapolate what's needed to make the best decision. We also hear directly from the inmates on appeals. And one of the appeal criteria that we have is if the inmate had anything that wasn't presented to the disciplinary board sergeant or the disciplinary board hearing at the time that committee made its decision, then they can present that to us. And they have. Which has led to some of our appeals being granted. So in that regard, we do have interactions with inmates directly if they feel like they need to tell us something that we weren't privy to prior to our adjudication. And in terms of the arbitrariness of anything that we're doing, it is voluminous and it is difficult. But I wouldn't characterize anything that we do as arbitrary. I think we're very deliberate and purposeful in the decisions we make and the actions we take. And then with regard to the fiscal question, nothing that we do adds any budgetary expense to the state. So these inmates would just be getting out early, but there's no guarantee of that happening. So if an inmate, the budget is considered for the inmate population, assuming that they fulfill the entirety of their sentence. The budget isn't created with an expectation that a particular inmate is going to be released earlier because they get X amount of good time credit. So when we characterize the additional fiscal impact as being $38 million because those days were taken away, that's a bit of a mistake, because it's not any additional impact on the budget of the state. That the inmate would have been budgeted to serve the entirety of their sentence anyway, so it doesn't add anything to the state budget. So in terms of the fiscal check, we have our budget that we work within, and the expectation is that the inmates will behave appropriately while they're incarcerated, and if they don't, they will remain incarcerated for the entirety of their sentence. That doesn't really add to the budget.
Well, I'm not sure this is a zero-sum game here. I mean, okay, let's just we just renewed for some reason another contract with CoreCivic for West Tennessee for $168 million, even though you said you continue to have to fine them for various things. We've got all these ongoing issues at Charleston County, which isn't even the one that's allowed by law. The other three of the four are circumventing the spirit of the state law, limiting to one contract by contracting with counties. Yet the state's paying you to oversee those facilities. I mean, there's a massive contradiction there. Anyway, those contracts are paid by per inmate per day. So if we're extending time for those per inmate per day, how is that not costing the state of Tennessee more money?
Well, first of all, we don't have anything to do with the contracts. We're not overseeing any of the facilities with regard to the expectations of their duties to those contracts. We are only overseeing the inmates in terms of their disciplinary credits. So when the state enters into a contract with CoreCivic with any amount, we have no oversight over any of that. And then secondly, you'd have to look at the contract to understand better where the expectations are for how they create the numbers. So like you say, it enters into an $168 million contract. There's the expectation that X number of inmates will remain in there for X number of days. That's a preconceived number, though. That doesn't have anything to do with whether or not that inmate fulfills the entirety of their sentence. All we're doing is we're saying if you're an inmate who has proven that you can't cooperate and abide by the rules and regulations in a structured environment like prison, you have not earned the right to not serve the entirety of your sentence and pose a risk to the community where that structure and oversight doesn't exist.
Well, I appreciate that, and unfortunately I've had the unfortunate pleasure of reading these CoreCivic contracts in my other capacity, and I know how they're structured, and I know how bad time gets added sometimes, and for what reasons, that have a direct detrimental impact on individuals at no fault of their own. Ultimately, the aim and spirit of this board is great. I wish it was limited to the private prisons, quite honestly, because they're the ones who really need substantive oversight. They're the ones who need a check and make sure they're not adding bad time for profit purposes. I don't think that I would never accuse the state of Tennessee of doing that, because profit's not in the equation, and I don't believe that state employees or wardens are doing that. So I would love to limit this board to the 4 private prisons in the state of Tennessee, but I do have sincere concerns about the fiscal check there, because I understand you see it as a zero-sum game, but there's nothing guaranteeing that. There is no protector, a barrier. You could revoke all of them in any given year, and it may be, there's theoretically that could be warranted. after your due diligence. But that's my concern, is the increased bureaucracy overstepping onto the purpose for wardens having that ability because they're on site, in person, they know these inmates. But at the same time, I wish you provided it to the prisons because they need more oversight. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. Appreciate you answering the question.
Okay. Thank you for those questions. We are here to just talk about the inmate disciplinary oversight board. So Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to make sure just a couple of things. One, that I'm clear on what my colleague was saying is that, there could be some motivation to make these, to remove these credits from inmates if, there's a contractual agreement to keep, so many inmates, so many beds full at, whatever that agreement is. And so I think that you understood where he was going.
Oh, yeah, okay. I understood
okay.
it. And
okay.
I would just say that, part of our approach is that we remove that benefit. We don't look at it that way. Mm-hmm. We look at it just from the offense, and we want consistency across the private prisons, the core civic prisons, and then across the state as well, so that if an inmate moves from a core civic prison to a state-run facility, they can expect the same result based on the actions that they're doing. So it's very important to us to consider that.
Okay. Thank you for that. Are there any cases where an inmate, let's say an inmate has 25 years, but their negative behavior has made it so that there is more than actually 25 years that they're going to have to serve? Are there cases like that?
Yeah, again, I'll turn to our chairman, who I think has the best handle on individual instances.
You're recognized. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. They have the ability to do a sentence extension on an inmate. So as I was using as an example, a person could be doing, say, a 20-year sentence at 85% or even 35% or 100% under truth in sentencing. But if they're getting the good time credits, and the good time credits are, you can get a maximum of 8 program days per month or 8 behavioral days, your good time per month. And then you can get the maximum of your program is only 60 days for the whole year. You max out no matter how many programs you're taking. So you're looking at about 157 days possibly in a year. But if let's say you've had 3 prior offenses for assault on an officer or having possession of a cell phone, you're going to lose a minimum of 9 months. So if the first time you have 9 months taken away, if you had, say, a year built up, you've only got 3 months left. The next one, you're going to either get 9 or 12 months. Well, you start going in the hole, so your sentence starts extending. So, yes, sir, you can do more than what your original sentence was with a maximum of just a 5-year extension.
And I think that's where my colleague was going with, the budgetary questions, meaning that there could be, an increase of cost to the state, based on the behavior of some inmates. And I just want to make sure I was clear on your answer in regards to that. And I think I'm clear that the answer is yes. It could cost the state more money if these individuals, if time is being added to these individuals, these inmates, based on the reports that you guys receive from the facility. Is that a correct assessment?
That is correct, and I'd like to also add that now that the legislature actually approved some bills for like indecent exposure now as a criminal act, we are seeing, like, just in our first quarter reporting from all 14 prisons, what have been referred to district attorneys, we had over 750 cases referred of inmates that are violating state law, and they're getting further prosecution. So what we're seeing now is more proactive stances from the district attorneys in the district, where if these people are criminals and they keep acting the criminal in the facility, they're getting additional charges. So the sentence extensions are not as common as they used to be because they're actually prosecuting these people for the crimes. So they are doing more time, but it's people that really are probably going to be a hazard to the public if they got out early.
And was indecent exposure not a crime before that? I'm confused on you said.
No, sir. Indecent exposure, if it was in a correctional facility, was not a crime. They would take good time away, but now they are actually prosecuting it as along with assaults and all. And it's making a big difference because to go to the TDOC facilities and sit down with the correctional officers, you would not believe how many times we see multiple indecent exposure offenses come across our reviews, but most of the time they may have got written up one time in that day. It may happen 4 or 5 times because, excuse me, the correctional officer has got so much more to do than just write up that one, that person. So they're kind of giving them a little leeway. So talking with the officers, most of the time, if they get one write-up, it's happened about 3 or 4 times in that one day.
And so just last thing on that part, and I just got 2 more questions. So every criminal crime that happens outside of the prison is not a crime inside the prison? Is that what you're telling me?
No, sir, not. If you committed like an aggravated assault in the prison, that's the same as an offense outside the prison. An indecent exposure is supposed to be in the public, and I think the way, and I'm not an attorney, but the way the original law was written is while they were inside the prison, in their cell, they had an expectation of privacy, and that has somehow been amended, and now they're doing more prosecutions because we actually, and it's sick to say, but we've had cases that we review where the perpetrator is not in a cell or something; they're actually sitting in a classroom.
Let me ask you this, out of the second time.
We are getting a little long, so if you kind of wind it up.
Sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Where do just really quickly on this one, and just one last question, but where do your purposes and those of probation and parole overlap? Do they overlap at all? And I can.
They don't overlap directly, but we have conversations with the Board of Parole on the decisions they make. We also send them a prolific offender list at least monthly to alert them to offenders inside the prison that we're noticing are demonstrating an inability to behave. We also have answered questions and worked with local district attorneys' offices who have reached out to us to ask us about inmate behavior when they are asked to write letters when an inmate is coming up for parole. So we don't work directly with the parole process, but indirectly we have quite a bit of discussion with them.
But no overlap, and you can just shake
no
your head for
direct
that.
overlap.
Okay, who you said you guys had no involvement in the Austin Drummond's release? Who was responsible for the Austin Drummond's release? I can't hear you.
Well, that's an ongoing criminal prosecution, so I don't want to say too much about it. But the events that led up to his release did not involve our decision making because a lot of those events happened either before we were formed or right at the beginning we were formed, and so there are actors that I think would be better positioned to answer those questions that are not us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next, we have Senator Hatcher and Representative Fritz, and we are getting a little long, so if we can wind this up.
I just have one quick question. Can you give me an example of what offenses that occur inside the prison that you would consider taking credits away from the inmate?
There are 29 Class A offenses, and all of those are eligible to have time removed from them. Those range from homicide, assault on an officer, assault on an inmate, all the way down to having a cell phone in your cell for not participating in a program that you're assigned to. So I could list all 29, but that may take a little bit long, but those are some examples.
So what you're telling me is before you take credits away, they have to do some type of offense in that prison before you take any kind of credits away from them,
Yes,
correct?
sir,
They're charged
100%.
with- Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Fritz. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm just going to read something from page 4 of this August 4, 2025 memo, and then I'll have a recommendation just for consideration for my peers here. It says, we're currently trying to remedy these issues through a number of different channels. First, we're trying to contact TDOC personnel directly who may be able to better explain the breakdowns in the current disciplinary process and they're occurring, including sentence management failures. But we have found that our efforts to directly contact TDOC personnel are being impeded by central office instructions. Specifically, D.C. Muckle and A.C. Thomas are requiring all communications to go to them directly and are gatekeeping requests from the board based on their own perceived relevance resulting from some of the board's requests. And so, is that a correct statement from the...
At the time, that was, but that has been remedied.
So I would just offer this, Mr. Chairman, for consideration, not a motion, but we should make sure that's nailed down before we vote on expending more of the taxpayers' dollars on this board. I agree with what you're trying to do, but I think that TDOC's got to be playing with this. And I hear you, sir. I appreciate it, but I think that's important.
Thank you, Representative. And that's something that we certainly can consider, but this will, whatever we decide to do, will be passed on to government operations during the regular Senate, House and Senate during session committees. So any other questions? Representative Clemens, you have, if you don't mind, we are running a little long. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to follow up on the senator's question about how bad time can get entered. I mean, the reality is if there is somebody with a known mental health illness in a facility who is not getting appropriate mental health care or their medicines, and they're acting out because they're not getting those medicines, then forcing them to take that medicine is considered a use of force by CoreCivic. And if CoreCivic has to mark it up as a use of force, they will add bad time, because that individual has a mental health issue for which they are not treating them appropriately. So I think there's more nuance to this question about what bad time and why bad time gets added sometimes. Now, that's my personal experience through my other capacity of experience with that situation. But I don't think this is a black and white issue with regards to how bad time gets added. Now, theoretically, your board would see a situation like that and overturn it. And to that end, great. And that's why I love this and why I think you should be really focused on private prisons, if not solely focused on private prisons. But I just want to clarify that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments from members? Seeing none. Is there a motion? Is there public comments? Seeing none. I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Hatcher,
I'd like to make a motion, please. I'd like to make a motion that we extend the Inmate Disciplinary Oversight Board for 2 years.
Thank you. Have a second? Second. Have a motion and a second. What we're going to do is we'll have a Senate roll call vote. Madam Clerk?
Senator Bowling?
Aye.
Senator Bowling votes aye. Senator Hatcher? Aye. Senator Hatcher votes aye. Senator Jackson?
Aye.
Senator Jackson votes aye. Senator Kyle? Senator Kyle passes. Senator Rose? Aye. Senator Rose votes aye. Senator Sutherland? Chairman, you have 4 ayes.
Thank you. And the Senate and the House, we'll have a roll call vote. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay. In the Senate, I'm going to get Doug Garrett, legal, to make an explanation on this. Doug Garrett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doug Garrett with the Office of Legal Services. Our practice has been, as our office, the practice of our office, I should say, in drafting the legislation to reflect the recommendations of this committee, has been to draft those bills in a manner that reflects the actual extension. So we would draft to the positive and not to the negative. However, in the House, if one House votes to the negative, then we would do an amendment to that. But there has to be a bill in play so that at least that other House can entertain the bill in full committee. So there will be a bill drafted, but it will reflect the Senate recommendation for the 2-year extension.
Representative Parkinson, you have a question.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, to legal. So a bill will be created reflecting the Senate's positive recommendation. What will it say about the House inside of that same bill?
So the legislation, the corresponding legislation, the House bill version will reflect the Senate language. However, a statement will be made in the House committee that it did not receive the necessary votes to approve that 2-year extension. So then an amendment, if necessary, pending discussion, can be made to that bill.
Thank you, sir. But why wouldn't the House version of the bill reflect what how the House voted? I mean, because so my question is, why wouldn't the House version of the bill reflect what the House members voted? Like the Senate version reflects what the Senate voted, but the House voted in negative extension. So why wouldn't the House version of the bill say that?
Doug Garrett again with legal. The committee actions here are recommendations to the full. So we have to have a bill to get it to both committees, with the caveat that the bill did not pass, or the recommendation did not pass by the House and committee. And staff will make that known to the committee in the House that this did not pass. But we have to have some sort of bill.
I get it. Okay.
To at least address, if you want to recreate, reconstitute, do away with, terminate, you have to have that bill in play. The 2-year recommendation and the bill that goes to the House is merely a placeholder, if you will. That bill is just a placeholder. And staff will make that comment in committee, in a House committee.
Okay, and just my last, I'm thank you for the clarity. I just need clarity because I hadn't, okay. And so it has been our practice to take the affirming language if one body affirms and one body does not. Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you for the clarity.
We think that a negative vote is more impactful.
Check, gotcha, okay.
Because it leaves you with no option. I appreciate that. Good question.
Thank you, members. This did pass with a positive recommendation in the Senate.
Recommendation for extension of 2 years.
This is passed with a positive recommendation for an extension for 2 years in the Senate.
No positive.
And
no positive recommendation, just a 2-year recommendation for a 2-year extension.
a recommendation for a 2-year extension. In the House. No, in the Senate.
To reflect the bill as drafted.
The Inmate Disciplinary Oversight Board did receive a 2-year extension from the Senate. So, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want?
Which one's the next one? Okay. Next, we do have the Integrated Criminal Justice Steering Committee. If you will come forward and take a seat, turn your mic on and make sure that you recognize who you are and who you're with, and you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Matthew Drews. You all right? Sorry.
Yeah, if you would move a little closer to your mic. So
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Drews. I'm the Executive IT Director for the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security. I also volunteer as the Chair of the Integrated Criminal Justice Steering Committee. On my right, I have Assistant Director Rich Littlehale with TBI. He's one of our board members. And Sharice Bonwell, who is our portal administrator and project manager. Sharice is with the Administrative Office of the Courts. The Criminal Justice Portal is a product of this committee. The portal is used by about 13,000 law enforcement across the state of Tennessee, and those law enforcement make up 566 different agencies across the state. The data that's in this portal is from a number of different state agencies. Those are the Tennessee Department of Safety, the Department of Correction, Department of Revenue, and TBI. Our membership is defined within the TCA 16-3-818, and we have a 2-year term for our board members. We have quite a few vacancies, 7 unfilled positions for the past 3 years. The committee meets on a quarterly basis 4 times a year, and we typically have 8 to 10 members per meeting, which does constitute quorum. We have not appointed any advisory council committee members in the last 2 years. The committee does not have any revenue or expenditures in the last couple of years. That does not include the portal itself. There are financials related to the portal product itself, and Sharice can speak to a little bit of that if you all have questions about that. There's no per diem travel that's being incurred by this committee, or aside from some parking validation for the quarterly meetings. This committee is not subject to the Sunshine Law, the TCA 8-44-101, and the meetings are posted quarterly on the AOC website. The meetings are not open to the public, and feedback that we receive is routed to our portal administrator and directly to the members of the committee, depending on the nature of that feedback. In terms of our statutory goals, this committee exists to, and the portal exists to, increase public safety and support the rest of the criminal justice system. and the primary activity that this committee is engaged in on a quarterly basis is discussing access issues or misuse issues. If there is a cyber incident, we would discuss the nature of that and what we're doing to address that. We don't have any new initiatives in the past couple of years. So our recommendation is to sunset the committee, in large part due to the sort of lack of engagement and participation. I think the committee was sort of especially busy when the portal was first created, but I think the committee has run its course. Our recommendation to sunset the committee is supported by the agencies that are stakeholders within this. Those are the Administrative Office of the Courts, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the Department of Safety, and the agency that I work for, F&A, Strategic Technology Solutions. The portal itself continues to provide tremendous value, as evidenced by all the users and agencies that we have using this. The primary audience for this is small to mid-sized law enforcement agencies, because the large law enforcement agencies typically have their own connections directly to some of the source data. So this is essentially one-stop shopping for those small to medium-sized agencies for state data. With that, we recommend that you sunset the committee, and we do believe that the portal does need to continue in existence. And assuming that the committee is sunset, we believe the portal should be relocated from the Administrative Office of the Courts to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. They provide they're the clearinghouse and provide a variety of other criminal justice systems for law enforcement across the state. And we believe that they are sort of the natural fit for this. We've looked at what other states are doing with similar criminal justice systems. In those other states that we've looked at, almost unanimously, they sit within their state investigative body. With that, we'll take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that explanation. Members have any questions? Representative Clemens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is the Administrative Office of the Courts okay with that decision and the recommendation to put it within the TBI?
Sharice Bonwell, Administrative Office of the Court. Yes, Representative, we are fine with that recommendation.
Thank you. And is there any, I know that there's kind of the portal is the main jurisdiction of this, but to the extent there's any other body going to be created to replace this board, is that in the talks or no?
Not outside of the processes that TBI has in place to provide that with all of their existing criminal justice systems.
Okay, and so to the extent that jurisdiction and the TBI overseeing this, and perhaps you can answer this better, are the relevant stakeholders still going to have a voice in this with any issues arising from this portal, public defenders and others?
So it was our understanding that the notion was that the workload would be shifted to the TBI, but that the oversight would be sunset, in the sense that the workload itself is fairly routine by today's standards and looks a lot like other mechanisms that we provide access to the same systems. So it was not our understanding that there would be any additional governance beyond the governance that we already have in place for existing systems at the TBI.
To the extent that any oversight is required, will there still be a venue for interested parties to have a say in this, such as public defenders or others?
Well, I don't. My understanding is that the proposal, as it is that the existing mechanism would not be continued. Now, we are always happy to hear from interested parties in the conduct of our business, but I don't believe the intent is to create any kind of equivalent process. So from the Bureau's perspective, if it is the wisdom of the Oversight Committee that the governance stay in place, then I imagine so too would the the steering committee and the portal. Am I answering your question, Representative? I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you. To the best of your ability, I believe you are. Well, my other question is this. So I couldn't find the fiscal note associated with this steering committee that had those ongoing 7 vacancies. Is the fiscal note associated with this committee, to the extent there is one, equivalent to what additional budgetary needs the TBI will have once it takes on this, or will the TBI require more money?
We will not, Representative. So this is what we would call within state government a consolidated workload. That is to say, an element within Strategic Technology Solutions actually provides the services here. So this isn't a database, it's a broker service. It just permits what's called a federated query of these different data sources. And there is both an appropriated recurring budget amount and a modest fee, $7 per user per year, for those agencies, and that money combined is paid to the Department of Finance and Administration within the state budget to offset that consolidated workload.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments from the members?
No, public comments.
Seeing none, do I have any public comments? Seeing none, have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we terminate the Integrated Criminal Justice Steering Committee with a 1-year wind down for them.
Thank you. And have a second? Second. So we have a second. What I'm going to do is refer to legal counsel Doug Garrett for an explanation on this of what we're doing. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doug Garrett with the Office of Legal Services again. Just to explain the motion, the committee will cease to, or will terminate, and then go through a 1-year wind down provision as referenced by Senator Hatcher. This affords the committee, the steering committee, the opportunity to complete its business in adherence to all statutory responsibilities that it operates under currently. And at the end of that second full year, then it will cease to exist. So terminate, 1-year wind down, cease to exist. So
thank you for that explanation. We have lost a quorum in the House, so we will have only a vote from the Senate. So roll call vote in the Senate. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Senator Bowling? Senator Bowling votes aye. Senator Hatcher? Aye. Senator Hatcher votes aye. Senator Jackson?
Aye.
Senator Jackson votes aye. Senator Kyle? Aye. Senator Kyle votes aye. Senator Rose? Aye. Senator Rose votes aye. Senator Sutherland? Chairman, you have 5 ayes.
Thank you, and this will recommendation to terminate with a 1-year wind down. We'll move on. Thank you. Okay. Next item number 7 on the agenda, Post-Conviction Defender Oversight Commission. If you'll come forward. And just take a seat and make sure your mic is on. What I'd like for you to do is just recognize who you are, who you're with for the record, and you may proceed when you're ready. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tyler DeWitt, and I'm the chairman of the Post-Conviction Defender Oversight Commission. I've been the chairman since 2023, appointed by Governor Haslam in 2017. And to my left is Justina Scalpone. She has been the post-conviction director since March of 2013. Justina is going to go through an overview of the agency specifics, and I will go over the role of the commission.
Good afternoon. Justina Scalpone, the Post-Conviction Defender. Our office was enacted by the legislature in 1995 and opened its doors on April 1st, 1996. Our statutory purpose and mission is to provide high-quality legal representation to people on Tennessee's death row in state collateral proceedings. Typically, that's through post-conviction process. This means basically investigating the cases, investigating the offense, investigating the social history of the client, mitigating and aggravating circumstances which are relevant to the sentence, as well as the legal process itself. Our office also represents clients in clemency proceedings, and that is a proceeding that happens at the end of the legal process in the capital case. That's after the person has been through the state appeals and the federal appeals, and it's usually before the execution date is set, but it's approaching. That process happens not in court, but it's in front of the governor, and it's through meetings with governor's legal counsel. The purpose of clemency is it's basically in essence, a plea for mercy and to correct any miscarriage of justice that happened in the case. Finally, besides the direct legal representation, we also serve a resource function. So we are a clearinghouse for all the capital pleadings and capital cases created by our office, going back to the office's inception. We also provide training, and usually that's done with Tennessee Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. We co-plan the annual capital defense seminar with them. We sometimes do more limited specific trainings, but we only do that when we have the bandwidth, when the case obligations don't prevent us from doing that. And finally, we provide non-case specific consultations to other attorneys when they call in with specific legal issues related to either capital cases or just post-conviction process in general. We do this with 20 employees. 18 of us are legal staff, and a few of us do both legal and administrative work, and then 2 employees are fully administrative. We are now fully staffed, almost. We had a 1 vacancy, which we just filled, and that person will be starting November 1st. So November 1st will be fully staffed. And I will leave it at that. I'm happy to answer any questions later.
Yeah, as far as the Post-Conviction Defender Oversight Commission, it took me about 5 years to say that without messing it up. We've got 9 members. There are currently 3 vacancies, 2 from the Speaker of the House and 1 from the Governor. We are working with both of those offices to fill those vacancies. But the way the structure of the commission works, there are 3 commissioners that are appointed by the Governor, 3 by the Lieutenant Governor, and 3 by the Speaker of the House. Then we have an audit committee that I'm also the chair of, along with 1 other member. We do have 1 vacancy on that audit committee. We're responsible for approving and reviewing the budget, any concerns with spending, hiring, firing, staffing issues. We do not have our own budget. We do serve pro bono, and we travel. There are travel reimbursements. I actually just discovered today, so I'll be taking you up on that. But really, our role here on this commission is oversight, as the name would imply, right? We can't be involved in the cases. I'm not in the courtroom with Justine. I am an attorney, but I deal with tax controversy, so I let her stay in her territory. And we really get this done by, like I said, through the audit committee, but also through the greater commission that does look at the budget, make sure that everything's above board, and we address specific budget requests, review office policies, review the caseload, staffing issues, any reports from employees, any other matters really as needed as Justina brings to our attention. We do review her performance every 4 years, and if needed, and hopefully not, we would conduct a search for a new director. We usually meet 3 times a year, and the audit committee usually meets 2 to 3 times a year, depending on what's going on. We have created this year a pretty robust conflict of interest policy. That was something we identified as a need as a commission. It's based on self-reporting, and really it's these instances where some of our members are attorneys, and we just really try to get in front of the potential of there being a conflict of interest where one of the commission members perhaps was a witness or was counsel of record at the trial level in one of the cases that the Post-Conviction Defender Office is handling. And so at the end of the day, we respectfully ask that this commission and the Office of the Post-Conviction Defender be extended. They serve a key role in helping the state of Tennessee ensure that the death penalty is not inflicted in constitutional or arbitrary. or unreliable, means in that kind of manner. And so having an institution with specialized knowledge and skills is really the most effective way of providing this type of representation. And so with that being said, we're happy to answer any and all questions.
Thank you, members. You've heard from the Post-Commission Conviction Defender Oversight Commission, and are there any questions? Senator Bowling, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you all for your presentation. I have consistently had problems with the post-conviction, in as much as if a person is arrested by law enforcement, they have the evidence, they take them and they try them by a jury of their peers, and they're found guilty. And then this could take how many years on average to go through this process?
May I respond?
Mm-hmm.
State post-conviction typically takes about 6 years.
6 years. And that's 6 years that a family, if the death penalty has been given, is subjected to waiting 6 more years. Do all states, I'm asking without
Yes.
asking, thank you.
Yes, you may go
Do
ahead.
all states have a post-conviction position like this?
Some states do. States do it differently. There are a few states, I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but that do have an office that specializes in capital state post-conviction. And then there are states that do have offices also that do non-capital post-conviction, which Tennessee does not.
And typically 6 years would be a minimum amount of time. It would delay the process. So the people of Tennessee, everybody, I don't know that anybody wins, even the prisoner at this point who's been convicted, and if they know they're guilty and they were convicted by a jury of their peers, I will vote no, particularly on an 8-year extension. But I just failed to see the benefit added here, because all of the things that you're supposed to be determining should have taken place prior to the conviction. I mean, whether or not it was constitutional, arrest, all the information, all. And I'm sure there are people who have been falsely convicted, no doubt. And now, though, we have a lot better DNA, we have a lot better information prior to that should be better for the person that's been arrested, if in fact there's now really better ways to determine the DNA and whatever with guilt that's involved. I think if they even touch something now, they can retrieve the DNA. So I just want to make sure that I understand this length of this process, and then the fact that it's not subject to the Sunshine Law, of course, anyway. And then you've got, just report major accomplishments and proposed legislative changes. What reports does the steering committee prepare concerning its activities, operations, accomplishments? None. What were the steering committee's major accomplishments in each of the last 2 fiscal years? None. What were the steering committee's major challenges in the last 2 fiscal years? None.
Senator Bowling, I think you might be
yes.
on the wrong
Yes. Okay.
commission.
Okay. Wait a minute. That's what it shows in mine.
Senator
Maybe
Bowling,
not.
you still have questions?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Anybody else, any other members have questions for this commission? Seeing none, what I need. Public comment. Is there a public comment? Seeing none, we'll take a vote, or I need a motion. So a motion. Senator Hatcher, you're recognized. No.
Precise length of.
Yeah. Let's see if y'all would turn your mics off. These mics are a little bit funny. So thank you. Okay. Senator Kyle, you made a motion for 8 years. Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Okay. All right. In the Senate, we need a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Senator Bowling votes no. Senator Hatcher votes aye. Senator Jackson
Aye.
votes aye. Senator Kyle votes aye. Senator Rose votes aye. Chairman, you have 4 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. And so the Post-Conviction Defender Oversight Commission moves on to a positive recommendation from the Senate for 4-year recommendation. I'm sorry, 8-year recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we're on item number 8, Interstate Compact for Supervision of Adult Offenders. And just take a seat and identify yourself, who you're with, for the record, and you may proceed.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Chairman. My name is Ashley Fuquay, and I serve as the Legislative Director for the Department of Correction. Beside me, I have Chris Hill, who is our Compact Commissioner. Beside him, I have Taylor Whalen, who is the Deputy Compact Commissioner. We appreciate the opportunity to come before the Joint Committee and discuss the Interstate Compact for the supervision of adult offenders. The Compact provides a statutory mechanism for the supervision of adults on both probation and parole in Tennessee. Tennessee became a member of the Compact in 2002, joining the other 49 states and 3 U.S. territories. The Compact ensures consistent supervision and regulates the movement of individuals on probation and parole between states. The Compact provides cooperative action among the states by establishing and enforcing regulations, training, facilitating the collection and sharing of data, and performing other essential tasks to ensure individuals on probation and parole maintain continuity when permanently relocating. Being a member of the Compact ensures states' compliance with specific criteria prior to the transfer of offenders and requires that sending states retake offenders whose non-compliant behavior meets certain criteria. Certain factors considered include family and employment to be, when we're considering the movement of offenders. Each member state pays a pro rata fee that is established by the Compact administration to be a party. This share is determined by the number of offenders in the Compact. Tennessee's share in fiscal year 25 was approximately $40,000. To date, there are over 5,000 individuals supervised pursuant to this Compact in Tennessee, and then Tennessee has sent about 3,900 individuals outside of the state for supervision. The Compact provides protections to the state and ensures offenders are properly supervised and all movements are known. Failure to maintain membership in the Compact would jeopardize the public safety of Tennesseans by creating the presence of undocumented felons in our state and would strip us of our ability to apply standards of supervision. So with that in mind, we ask for a positive recommendation to extend this Compact, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Bugle, for that explanation. Members, before I ask for questions from the other members, I may have missed this, but all 50 states are a member of this Compact?
Yes, sir, Chairman. All 50 United States.
Okay, good. I just wanted to be sure of that. Okay, questions from any of the other members? Public comment? Seeing none? Entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a
recognized.
motion that we extend the Interstate Compact for supervision of adult offenders for 8 years.
Thank you. And do I have a second? Senator. Okay. Senator Kyle, got a second? Thank you. So we will take a voice vote from the Senate. Madam Clerk? I'm sorry, take a roll call vote.
Senator Bowling? Senator Bowling votes aye. Senator Hatcher? Aye. Senator Hatcher votes aye. Senator Jackson?
Aye.
Senator Jackson votes aye. Senator Kyle? Senator Kyle votes aye. Senator Rose? Aye. Senator Rose votes aye. Senator Sutherland? Chairman, you have 5 ayes.
Thank you. And this Interstate Compact for Supervision of Adult Offenders moves on to Government Operations Committee. Okay, next.
Thank you.
Sex Offender Treatment Board. If you'll come forward. take a seat and recognize yourself, and be sure your mic is on, and you may proceed.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Again, Ashley Fuquay, Legislative Director for the Tennessee Department of Correction. Beside me, I have Judge Angelita Blackshear Dalton, a member of the board. Beside her, I have Sue Siedentop, who's the Sex Offender Treatment Board Chair. Also supporting us in the audience, we have several other board members, including Rochelle Gibson, Jonathan Holland, and Jill Grimm. If I forgot anyone else that's back there, I apologize. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to come before the board to come before the Joint Committee and provide information about the crucial important work of the Sex Offender Treatment Board. So the Sex Offender Treatment Board was created by the General Assembly in 1995. It's codified under TCA 3913-704, which authorizes the formation of the board. And at that time, is to address the growing sex offender population in our communities. The Sex Offender Treatment Board is statutorily obligated to develop and prescribe a standardized procedure for the consistent evaluation and identification of convicted sex offenders, recommending behavior management, monitoring, and the treatment of sex offenders. Now, the statute dictates who is appointed and by whom that person is appointed. They are administratively attached to our department, and they do have 12 appointed members. The board members have expertise across the correctional, judicial, law enforcement, treatment, and also victim rights backgrounds, which provide invaluable input on appropriate treatment and services to the state. The board itself is charged with developing and prescribing standardized procedures for evaluation and identification of sex offenders, the implementation of methods of intervention, and developing guidelines and standards for a system of programs for the treatment of those sex offenders. Now, the board takes its responsibilities very seriously, and they know that individuals convicted of sexual offenses need consistent evaluations and evidence-based treatment to lessen the likelihood of reoffense and lower recidivism. The board ensures that those approved evaluators possess the skills and knowledge necessary to properly assess risk and provide appropriate and effective recommendations and treatment. The board does review all credentials, training, and documentation submitted prior to the approval of those evaluators. We ask for your positive recommendation for the board's extension. We thank you for your time and are happy to answer any questions, and also wanted to give Judge Dalton a chance to make any comments if she wanted to make those.
Judge Dalton, you're recognized. If you would make sure your mic is on and pull it close so we can be sure and hear.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, and good afternoon. And as mentioned, I am Angelita Blackshear Dalton, and I am a judge in Davidson County in the criminal courts here. And it has been my pleasure and my honor to serve on the Sex Offender Treatment Board since May of 2021. As a member of the Judiciary, and based upon what I have experienced in participation on this board, I have truly grown to appreciate the significant role that the board plays in reviewing and ensuring that we have appropriate providers in the community that can provide the necessary treatment for the cases that we see in our courts. And that is something that I definitely appreciate about what the work that the board does and that I hope will continue to do. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Judge Dalton. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Members, you've heard the explanation for the Sex Offender Treatment Board. Any questions from the members? Do I have a public comment? Seeing none. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we extend the Sex Offender Treatment Board for 8 years.
Have a second. Have a motion and a second by Senator Kyle. We will, for the Sex Offender Treatment Board, we'll take a vote. Let's see, we need a voice roll call vote in the Senate.
Senator Bowling? Senator Bowling votes aye. Senator Hatcher? Aye. Senator Hatcher votes aye. Senator Jackson?
Aye.
Senator Jackson votes aye. Senator Kyle? Aye. Senator Kyle votes aye. Senator Rose? Aye. Senator Rose votes aye. Senator Sutherland? Chairman, you have 5 ayes.
Thank you for that. And this Sex Offender Treatment Board moves on to the full government operations. for a 8-year extension.
Thank you, Chairman Committee.
Okay. Members, that finishes our agenda, but I would like to make this statement. Actions by this joint subcommittee are subjected to the Government Operations Committee for deliberation and final decisions prior to being placed on calendar during the legislative session. Notice of future meetings will be posted in advance of scheduled meeting dates. So I wanted to make that statement. And I think with nothing else, then we will stand adjourned.
And we'll be back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
Back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. You can sleep in.